Welcome back to our channel. This is the second video in a two-part series that take a look at skeletons. Always remember to have your visual aid ready that covers each section of the skeleton that we are referring to. Also, make sure you have an overview of the skeleton as a whole to look at throughout this video. This will help you to not get lost in all the terminology and explanations. The study of life science is very much like Google Maps. Sometimes we need to zoom the view out to understand the bigger picture of where everything starts and how they are connected. And other times we need to zoom into certain areas on the map to see how the system functions within the whole. Very importantly, we also need the little dangling guy to be placed smack bang in the middle of the action to see how things function internally. It is important to note at this juncture that the videos about movement and the nervous system are linked to this video. They also make use of some of the same terminology. We briefly looked at the functions of skeletons in the previous video. In this video, we will zoom in on the human skeleton and discover the characteristics and functions of this support structure. Functions of the human skeleton include providing support and giving shape to our bodies, protection of all the internal organs as well as the tissues of the body. When muscles are attached to the skeleton, it helps to facilitate movement. Blood cells are produced inside the red bone marrow encapsulated inside bones. Mineral salts and calcium are not only part of the bone but are stored inside them. We are only able to hear because of the ossicles made of bone inside the ear. The human skeleton is grouped into two divisions that we will get into in a minute. First, a study tip. I've mentioned this in previous videos because it is vitally important to get into the habit of understanding the words before you try to learn and understand the concepts. If you don't understand the terminology, you will be like a marathon runner attempting to run a marathon without shoes. The runner will not be able to run the race for a very long time or complete the race, let alone win it. Use a dictionary and look up the words. Google them if you don't have a dictionary. Never assume you understand the words. If you have heard the word before and vaguely understand the meaning, Google it anyway. The human skeleton is grouped into two divisions, namely the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. The meaning of the word axial can be found in its root, namely axis. An axis is a fixed reference line for the measurement of coordinates. An object that requires movement is therefore almost always situated around, in the direction of, on, or along an axis. The axial skeleton is made up of the skull, the bony thorax, and the vertebral column. Let's zoom in on these parts individually. The skull is made up of the cranial and facial bones. The cranial bones form the cranium, or the brain box. Interesting fact. The motorcycle helmet was designed because of the woodpecker, a bird that uses its beak to peck holes into trees. It was observed that the woodpecker is able to peck these holes at a very high speed without damaging its brain by intense impact and force needed for the task. It was discovered that it is a particular shape of the skull that protects the brain and allows the bird to peck holes into solid objects. And voila, helmets came into existence. The cranium is made of 8 flat bones and joined together by joints called sutures. When you are born, your cranium has spaces called fontanelles. This means the skull is not completely fused together. The reasons for this is that the brain grows rapidly after birth during the infancy phase. During this phase, the fontanelles start closing as the bone growth slowly progresses during this phase. The main function of the cranium is to protect the brain and sensory organs of sight, sound, and smell. Facial bones that make up the structure of your face consist of 14 bones, mainly paired together. It not only protects the sensory organs located in the face, but provides openings for food consumption and secures your teeth. The second part of the axial skeleton is the vertebral column. It is shaped like a chain, consisting of 33 small bones called the vertebra. We know this chain most commonly as the spinal column. It surrounds a very important part of the body called the spine. We go into more detail about the spine in the video that covers the human nervous system, but in short, the spine is the communication hub of the body that sends and receives messages from the brain to the body. The spinal column doesn't just protect the spine, but it supports your head and serves as the point of attachment for ribs and for muscles. This video only explains the essential information you need to understand the functions and characteristics of the spine, but you will need to do an in-depth study in your textbook about injuries and diseases of this structure. You will be able to understand the information after watching this video. Lastly, the axial skeleton consists of a bony thorax. The thorax protects the vital organs like the lungs, the heart, and the major blood vessels. Apart from its protective function, it also supports the shoulders and upper limbs and aids in breathing. Thorax, therefore, refers to the whole chest that includes the sternum, ribs, rib cartilage, and the intercostal muscles that enable the rib cage to expand and to contract. When intercostal muscles contract, the lungs are compressed and we exhale. When they expand, the rib cage enlarges the lungs and the lungs inflate and we are able to inhale. Words that you need to fully understand when doing your in-depth study in your textbook are lateral and posterior. These two words indicate where bones or systems are located. Which brings us to the second division of the skeleton, the appendicular skeleton. The word appendicular needs to be broken up to understand the meaning thereof. Append stems from the word appendix, which refers to an object, word, or a body part attached to another object. Perpendicular refers to something being at an angle of 90 degrees to a straight line. We can therefore infer from this information that the appendicular skeleton is attached to the axial skeleton at certain angles to facilitate movement. The appendicular skeleton is made up of pectoral girdles that consist of clavicles or collarbones that have a scapula attached to it. Upper limbs include the upper arm consisting of a humerus and a forearm consisting of two bones, the radius and the ulna. The hand is connected to the radius and the ulna. Pelvic girdles are made up of three bones, the ilium or the hip bone, the ischium or the sitting bone, and the pubis. The lower limbs carry the whole weight of the body. The legs have a femur resting on top of the tibia and the fibula joined by the knee. The feet are attached to the legs. That wraps up our study of the support system of animals. I hope you listened to the dry bones song in the first video. It is a known fact that we learn easier through songs and rhymes. This will make sense to you since I'm sure that you know the lyrics of at least one or two songs that you sing along to. Hopefully, understanding the basic components of the skeleton will assist you when you are doing your in-depth study in your textbook. Feel free to watch this video again until you grasp the concepts and the terminology. The next video will take a look at movement of animals, where we will discuss what happens to bones when we attach muscles to them. It will be important to already be familiar with skeletal structure of animals to understand how joints play into movement of the skeleton. Till next time.